Okay, I suggest we begin. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, my name is Aisha Shabrova. I am Project Support Officer at the On-Site Inspection Division of the CTBTO, and I will be moderating this exciting session that is an outcome of a joint educational initiative of the Secretariat, notably the On-Site Inspection Division and the CYG Task Force, and National Research Nuclear University, MEFI. That is a top Russian academic institution for research in nuclear physics. For over a month, students of MEFI have been working on case studies developed for them by the On-Site Inspection Division. These cases cover a wide range of OSI-specific topics, driven by the need to ensure the operationalization of the CTBT at the entry verification mechanism at the treaty's entry into force. At this side event, students will present their ideas and technical solutions on how to further increase the OSI capability. But before we proceed to presentations that I'm sure everyone is very eager to see, we're happy to have here our distinguished guests that were kind enough to find time in their busy schedules to welcome participants and to wish them good luck. So with no further ado, please welcome the CTBTO Executive Secretary, Dr. Wasina Zerbo, who not only led this organization with class for the past 8 years, but who also became a widely renowned champion for youth. A person who impacted many of young people's careers, including mine. Dr. Zerbo, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Asia, and thank you for your very kind words. As a CTBTO youth group member, I mean, you were at the start of our initiative a few years ago, and then I thank you for still being involved and being at the on-site inspection at the project support team to also inspire younger people than you. Not that you are old now, but at least you certainly finish your university, and then I want to thank you for that. And I'm also pleased to have joining this session distinguished guest and dear friend Mikhail Ulyanov, who is a seasoned diplomat. Mikhail is well-versed in disarmament and non-proliferation issues and know a lot about on-site inspection. We have as well Alexei Astakov, who is a Deputy Commander, Special Monitoring Service and CTBT National Authority, Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. Andrei Kosilov, who is the Managing Director of the Regional Network at the StartNet initiative. And of course, my dear friend Vadim, who has also been behind this initiative. Let me thank you all for joining us today and all the participants, and then thank the On-Site Inspection Division for making this initiative a reality today with MEFI, a top-class university that train people in nuclear physics and nuclear engineering and issues that are directly related to our job. And I want to thank the Russian Federation for making this possible, because it's certainly a pilot project that will lead other countries who are involved in this issue of non-proliferation disarmament and science and technology beyond nuclear test monitoring and nuclear engineering to start similar initiative and then see how we can broaden the scope of having technical people part of the next generation of trainees that we're bringing on board with the CTBT, but more broadly to get beyond the CTBT to the overall nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament framework and nuclear engineering as well. When I hear MEFI, MEFI is close to my heart because we did one of our youth conference at MEFI. I was there myself, and then I will certainly visit MEFI again, even beyond my term as executive secretary, because I've had great time with the student at MEFI who still believe that there is a lot that we can do together. What I will do next, you will know soon, but whatever I do next, you guys will be close to my heart at MEFI, and then we'll continue working together in different capacity, and then to continue this initiative of youth involved in science and technology. And I also want to thank Maria, who has been in the task force of youth together with the MEFI coordination team that are involved in the youth for their great support. And just to say thanks to you all. We strive to find new ways to further deepen our traditionally close partnership. And as you know, last month I've signed an agreement, a practical arrangement with StarNet and the Mayfield University Consortium. And the project that assembled us here today is yet another instance of broadening this horizon of our cooperation. So this was initially conceived by the On-Site Inspection Division, and I'm proud and happy to see that people have taken on board everything that goes along with the test center, the technology support, the training center, and then the fact that they've had the vision of starting this pilot project is indeed a continuation of what the test center represents to all of us. So I want to thank you all at the On-Site Inspection Division under my dear friend Vadim's leadership, and thank every single one who has been involved in this initiative. If I start giving names, I will forget some of you, so I don't want to give any name. I just want to say thanks to all of you, and looking forward to cooperating more and more, and looking forward to seeing this initiative continuing beyond the persons and personalities that we are, because we start initiative. We don't start initiative linked to our person. We start initiative for this organization, for this treaty, and then to see the next generation moving forward. So thank you so much. And then I'm sure my dear friend Mikhail Ulyanov will come with probably more substantive issue. I see him with him behind him, the flag of Russia. He's a proud Russian. So I will hand over to Asya, and then thank you again, Asya. I see Franz as well, who is hiding half behind the screen there, but I see his face. So Franz, good job to you all, and good job to your team, and then to all, I see the on-site inspection team sitting in the room there. So thanks to you all. And in French, will say bon vent à vous tous, and may God help you continue this endeavor the best way possible in the interest of this treaty, and hopefully looking forward to seeing the on-site inspection with the treaty in force. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zerbo. Merci pour votre intervention. On est reconnaissant. Next, I would like to give the floor to Ambassador Mikhail Ulyanov, permanent representative of the Russian Federation to the international organizations in Vienna. Well, this initiative wouldn't have been possible without support, assistance, and guidance of the Russian mission here in Vienna. And we are very grateful for Ambassador Ulyanov's support of the CTBT, of the Secretariat's activities, especially when it comes to outreach and education, and this project in particular. Thank you for being here with us today, Ambassador Ulyanov. Mikhailov, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ася. Dear Dr. Zerbo, dear friends and colleagues, I need to thank you for your kind invitation to deliver opening remarks at this event, jointly organized by the PTS and MIFI. I will start with congratulating the PTS and personally my good friend Lasina Zerbo with successful conduct of 2021 Science and Technology Conference, which brought together more than 1,000 participants. This event marks the 25th anniversary of CTBTO, the moment when the treaty was opened for signature. And the conference has demonstrated firm support for CTBT and its verification mechanism worldwide. I must tell you that we are very proud that Russian young people actively engage in cooperation on promoting the CTBT. Students of MIFI play a special role in this regard, I would say leading role. 4 years ago, MIFI hosted the first conference of the CTBTO youth group. This group was established upon initiative of Dr. Zerbo, and within a very short period of time has grown to 1,000 members from across the globe. We believe that the involvement of younger generation is our investment in the future of CTBT. We also welcome the new project arranged by the PTS and MIFI, entitled OSI Educational Initiative for Young Professionals with a Technical Background, Presenting Outcomes. I believe this project gave an opportunity for MIFI students to learn more about CTBT and its verification mechanism, especially on-site inspections. We are proud that this project is almost completed, and today we will have an opportunity to learn the results of that work. We wish all participants fruitful discussion. Let's hope that the young aspiring people will finish what the elder generation has started. I mean, the need to ensure that finally the CTBT enters into force. It's doable, although extremely difficult under the circumstances. Once again, I wish you good and fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Большое спасибо, Mikhail Ivanovich, for your remarks, for your kind words, and for your time that you allocated for our event. Our next guest is Alexey Astakhov, Deputy Commander of the Special Monitoring Service at the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. That is the CTBT National Authority in Russia. Alexey Viktorovich, здравствуйте. Please, прошу вас, you have the floor.
Здравствуйте, добрый день, уважаемый доктор Зерба, Михаил Иванович, участники, я рад вас приветствовать.
Dear Mr. Ulyanov, dear Dr. Zerbo, on behalf of the National Authority of the Russian Federation for the CTBT, I'd like to greet all the participants.
Прежде всего, позвольте мне от имени Национального органа Российской Федерации Подзяя и от Университета МИФИ поприветствовать участников конференции «Наука и технология», которая проходит в эти дни, и всех участников нашего мероприятия. Это образовательная инициатива по тематике инспекции на месте для молодых специалистов технического профиля.
Once again, on behalf of the National Authority of Russian Federation for the CTBT and National Research Nuclear University, MIFI, let me first of all greet all the participants of CTBTO Science and Technology Conference 2021, which is taking place these days, and all the participants of our event, OSI Educational Initiative for Young Professionals with a Technical Background, Presenting Outcomes.
В феврале этого года исполнилось 5 лет молодежной группы, которая была образована по инициативе исполнительного секретаря доктора Зерба. Все эти годы национальный орган и университет МИФИ не просто поддерживали деятельность этой молодежной группы. Студенты МИФИ, входящие в молодежную группу, принимали самое активное участие в ее работе.
February of this year has marked the 5th anniversary of the CTBTO Youth Group, which was formed on the initiative of the CTBTO Executive Secretary, Dr. Zerbo. All these years, the National Authority of the Russian Federation for CTBT and MEFI has not only supported the activities of the CTBTO Youth Group, but also the MEFI students have been taking an active part in its work as the members of the CTBTO Youth Group.
За это время проделана достаточно большая работа. Напомню основные знаковые мероприятия.
During this time, a lot of work has been done. Let me remind you of the most significant events within our cooperation.
Я надеюсь, вы все помните, что в 2017 году в Москве на площадке МИФИ мы провели совместно первую международную конференцию молодежной группы.
In 2017, in Moscow, at the MEFI site, the first international conference of CTBTO Youth Group was held.
В 2018 году студенты МИФИ приняли активное участие в международной конференции «Научная дипломатия» и в международной конференции группы видных деятелей ДЯИ и молодежной группы в Астане, Республика Казахстан.
In May 2018, MEFI students took an active part in the CTBTO International Conference on Science Diplomacy in Vienna and in the International Conference of the Group of Eminent Persons of the CTBT and the Youth Group in Astana, Republic of Kazakhstan.
В В 2019 году студенты МИФИ приняли активное участие в открытом конкурсе «Вклад ЗЯИ в деятельность Организации Объединенных Наций в области реализации и достижения глобальных целей устойчивого развития на период до 2030 года».
In 2019, MEFI students took an active part in the open competition, contribution of the CTBTO to the activities of the United Nations in the implementation and achievement of the Global Sustainable Development Goals for the period up to 2030.
По итогам конкурса 6 проектов студентов МИФИ получили одобрение и поддержку со стороны ДЗЯИ. С этими проектами студенты МИФИ выступали на международной конференции ДЗЯИ «Наука и технология» 2019 года.
As a result of the competition, 6 projects of MEFI students received approval and support from the CTBTO. MEFI students presented these projects at the CTBTO International Science and Technology Conference in 2019 in Vienna.
В 2019 и 2020 годах организация ДЗЯИ поддержала инициативу StarNet, которую возглавляет МИФИ, по проведению студенческих визитов на объекты международной системы мониторинга. Результатом этого взаимодействия стало практическое соглашение между ДЗЯИ и международной сетью образования и подготовки специалистов в области ядерных технологий, которое было подписано в июне 2021 года.
In 2019 and 2020, the CTBTO supported the StarNet initiative, led by MEFI, to conduct students' visits to the facilities of the organization's international monitoring system in Vienna. The result of this interaction was a partial agreement between the CTBTO and the International Network for Education and Training of Specialists in Nuclear Technology, StarNet, which was signed in June 2021.
Сегодня мы делаем еще один практический шаг в развитии деятельности молодежной группы ДЗЯИ и всей организации.
Today, we are taking another practical step in the development of the activities of both the CTBTO Youth Group and the entire organization.
Образовательная инициатива университета МИФИ и организации ДЗЯИ по тематике проведения инспекций на месте для молодых специалистов технического профиля, которая реализована студентами МИФИ вместе с экспертами организации, дает возможность раскрыть свой научный и технический потенциал всем участникам молодежной группы.
The OSI Educational Initiative for young professionals with a technical background, presenting outcomes implemented by MEFI and CTBTO students on the subject of on-site inspection, provides an opportunity for everyone to unleash research and technical potential to the participants of the youth group.
Я уверен, что наша совместная деятельность будет способствовать достижению целей устойчивого развития ДЗЯИ и укреплению ее международного авторитета.
I'm confident that our joint activities will contribute to achieving the goals of sustainable development of the CTBTO and strengthening its international authority.
Всего лишь 5 лет, но мы так много сделали. Спасибо вам большое. Спасибо.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, большое спасибо, Alexey Viktorovich. Thank you for your kind words and for your remarks and for such a comprehensive overview. Unfortunately, due to last-minute schedule conflict, MEFI Rector Dr. Mikhail Strekhanov wasn't able to join us here today. However, we're glad to have Professor Alexey Kasilov, who is MEFI's Managing Director for the Regional Network for Education and Training in Nuclear Technology, StarNet, that have already been mentioned several times today, and that recently signed a cooperation arrangement with the CTBTO. Professor Kasilov, please, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. Dear Dr. Zerba, dear distinguished guests, I am very happy to be here and welcome participants of this important event. That the previous speakers, they explain in so details the history of the cooperation between the MEFI, between the StarNet and other, and let me to stress that the important element of the education and for young people, and to stress the importance of the activities that CTBT is carrying out for the general culture of the people on this future specialists in nuclear technology. Through our regional network for education and training in nuclear technology, StarNet, we are trying to attract people from other universities as well. And at the present time, the StarNet unites 15 universities from 8 countries. And the practical arrangements, which was signed 2 weeks ago between the StarNet president StarNet president Mr. Strikhanov and Dr. Zerba, these practical arrangements give the opportunity for other young people from other universities and from other countries also be more actively involved in the CTBT activities. And this also giving their some possibilities to cooperate us in more closely in area of education, capacity building, outreach, and training in nuclear technology and disarmament. We consider these activities as a very important element in the general culture of the new specialist, especially specialists in the nuclear technology. The activities which are doing CTBTO, they're extremely important. Few years ago, around 3 or 4 years ago, we started cooperation with CTBTO on the level of StarNet. I mean, MEFI was started a little bit earlier, and we already have experience that some people, for example, from Belarusian students visited CBTO, and they received a really good feeling. What is organization doing? How organization by their activities protect the world against of some nuclear disaster. And we think that it's very important, and as a managing director of the StarNet, I hope that the agreement which we signed and activities which is carried by a young generation group will help to educate the new generation and give them a feeling. We will educate them and build the responsibilities of the future of our world. Let me continue my short remark saying, giving a lot of thanks to CBT staff for all activities which already was done, and I think these activities will be significantly increased in the future. And I hope to all participants, especially young people who are waiting their floor, success in this site event. And I again would like to continue to stress that this site event, as this one, is extremely important for young generation. Thank you for all organizers for opportunity for the young people to have a presentation on such high level. Good luck.
Thank you, Professor Kasilov. And another very special guest we have here is Maria Chapurina, CTBTO External Relations Officer and the lead of the CTBTO Youth Group Task Force. I have to say that Maria and her team truly took a CYG activity on a whole different level. And at this SNT, they have already organized a number of exciting events for CYG members. And for this event in particular, we're very grateful for their support. And thank you for being here with us today. Maria, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Asya, Your Excellency, Ambassador Liana, Dr. Zerbo, distinguished colleagues and guests, and of course, I'll be also addressing to the students from the Mathi University who have recently joined the CTBTO Youth Group. So I'll say, dear CTBTO Youth Group members, a lot of great points, important points have already been raised in this call earlier, so I'll be extremely short, just highlighting 3 main points that I feel are definitely worth putting attention to. First of all, a very warm welcome to the new CTBTO Youth Group members from MEFI who have just joined the group a few weeks, days, or even hours ago. Today, the group counts more than 1,200 members coming from 115 countries. And as Dr. Zerbo mentioned earlier, it is extremely important for us to ensure that we have strong membership of young experts with a variety of profiles, and especially with technical profiles. So well done for your courage in taking on this ambitious OSI-related project. and also for starting a new endeavor with us, with the CTBTO Youth Group Task Force. I also want to very warmly thank On-Site Inspection Division and especially Director Vadim Smirnov and Asya for an excellent cooperation we have had over the past weeks when preparing this project. It has been a real pleasure working together. Finally, to MEFI, which did host in 2017 an amazing conference in Moscow, the first conference actually for the CTBTO Youth Group members. Thank you for taking the lead on doing it then. And I do hope there will be more opportunities to cooperate on projects such as this one and potentially on many more projects. And I know StarNet is already conceiving a number of potential engagements. So definitely also looking forward to the next steps in cooperation. And finally, to MEFI students and CYG members, I recall that once Ambassador Ulyanov said that a pessimist is a very well-informed optimist. Well, now having spent a month with us, you have been very well informed about the CTBT, about the work of the On-Site Inspection Division, and about the treaty in general. But I do hope that this has not led you to become pessimist regarding the CTBT, and that you will continue to be strong, energetic, and positive promoters of the call for the CTBT entry into force. Thank you, Asya.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you for CYG Task Force for the long-standing support. And it was indeed our pleasure to cooperate on this project and on other many exciting endeavors. And just before we conclude our section of opening remarks, I would want to give the floor to my boss, to Vadim Smirnov, OSI Division Director. Vadim Stanislavovich, please.
Thank you, Asya. Thank you very much. Just a few words of deep appreciation and thank you to our distinguished guests, Dr. Zerbo, Ambassador Ulyanov, Deputy Commander Astahov, Professor Kasilov, Maria. Thank you very much for your encouraging and kind words addressed to us on behalf of the OSI team. Thank you for your support of the initiative. I think now this stage is set for the young people to start with their presentations. And I wish them very productive meeting and discussions. Thank you, Asya. Back to you.
Thank you, Vadim Stanislavovich. Well, I think it couldn't have been said in any other better way. With this, we conclude our section of opening addresses, and we switch to our scientific program. And now we will hear from MEFI students who spent a month working on those cases developed by the On-Site Inspection Division. And then they will receive, after their presentations, they will receive a feedback from a distinguished panel of OSI experts from all over the world that we assembled specifically, and they also found time in their busy schedules to participate here. And I just wanted to quickly introduce the panel that will be working with students today. It's Massimo Chiappini, Research Director, National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology in Rome, Italy. Malcolm Coxhead, Director on CTBT and Disarmament at the Australian Safeguards and Non-Proliferation Office. Gustavo Requien-Garade, who used to be my colleague here at the On-Site Inspection Division that we miss dearly, but who now serves as Head of Radiation and Safety Department at the Israel Atomic Energy Commission. And last but not least, Gleb Zasimov, who is Deputy Head of the Research Department at the Duhov Automatics Research Institute, Vienna. So with no further ado, I would like to invite to present Working Group 1, Ivan Drozdov, Ledlana Fonin, and Essa Tsishba, who have been working on Xenon separation improvement study developed for them by our own colleague, Robin Reedman, Equipment and Implementation Officer at the OSI division of the CTBTO. Ivan, Vladlen, Essa, please, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are students of National Research Nuclear University, Moscow Engineering Physics Institute. My name is Drozdov Ivan, and I'm majoring in nuclear physics and technology.
And my name is Afonin Vladlen, and I'm majoring in theoretical physics.
And another student majoring in international relationship is Asad Sejba, who unfortunately isn't able to be here physically with us today due to COVID-19 pandemic. The topic of our study is xenon separation improvement. So, what is xenon separation and what is it for? During a nuclear explosion, various isotopes of xenon are being emitted in the atmosphere, and one of the goals of nuclear test ban experts' work is to catch it in a very specific period of time. Thus, filtering a large volume of air in the search of it is a non-trivial problem. But scientists use noble gases such as xenon for a number of purposes, and in particular to characterize different materials. For example, sorption sites of xenon on some commonly used zeolites. What is zeolite will be described a little bit later. For the purpose of zeolites characterization, xenon 129 nuclear magnetic resonance was widely used since the chemical shift of adsorbed xenon depends on the size and shape of pores, as well as the chemical composition, the type and concentration of co-adsorbent molecules. So, xenon is generally a means to characterize the porous materials, and the separation of xenon is generally not a goal of their studies. But is it possible to use these materials for xenon separation? Going forward, yes. And a similar technology is used in SPALEX noble gas monitoring systems for CTBTO IMS stations, a new mobile version of which was presented yesterday on topic 3.2 e-poster session. So, the history of the Xenon 129 NMR dates back to 1950s, when the first techniques for the Xenon 129 NMR were introduced. In the early 80s, Xenon 129 NMR spectroscopy of adsorbed xenon was proposed as an approach to study the pore structure of zeolites. The main concept of this technique is that the chemical shift of the xenon atom is extremely sensitive to the local environment and to chemical factors such as the composition of the material, the nature and concentration of co-adsorbed molecules, and the shape and the size of host void spaces. During the last 35 years, Xenon 129 NMR spectroscopy has been applied on various systems, such as porous materials, systems with supported metals, polymers, biomolecules, liquid crystals, and so on. Important theoretical developments have been performed for a better understanding of the NMR chemical shift and line shapes of Xenon 129. So, zeolites are microporous minerals commonly used as a commercial adsorbents and catalysts. In the picture, you can see the microscopic structure of zeolite framework assembled from orthosilicate tetrahedron. Metal organic frameworks, MOFs, are a class of compounds consisting of metal ions and clusters coordinated to organic ligands to form 1, 2, or 3-dimensional structures. Just as zeolites, they are often porous. And nuclear magnetic resonance is a physical phenomenon in which nuclei in a strong constant magnetic field are perturbed by a weak oscillating magnetic field and respond by producing an electromagnetic signal with a frequency characteristic of magnetic field at the nucleus. This process occurs near resonance when the oscillation frequency matches the intrinsic frequency of the nuclei, which depends on the strength of the static magnetic field, the chemical environment, and the magnetic properties of the isotope involved. In the lower picture, you can see the result of applying a constant magnetic field on the proton. We can see the energy split due to the proton spin of 1/2. NMR results from specific magnetic properties of certain atomic nuclei. Nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy is widely used to determine the structure of organic molecules in solution and study molecular physics and crystals as well as non-crystalline materials. Vladlen, could you continue, please?
Thank you, Ivan. Measuring xenon 129 NMR spectra at very low gas pressures allows to obtain the chemical shift of the gas phase, which can be set to 0 in good approximation and is used as a reference. Chemical shift contribution from xenon surface interactions without the influence of xenon-xenon interactions can also be obtained. This approach, however, results in very long measurement times due to the inherently low sensitivity of the method, in particular in materials with low surface area. Additionally, at low xenon pressure, the relaxation times can be very long. To overcome this limitation, hyperpolarization methods have been introduced, which drive the xenon polarization away from the Boltzmann equilibrium distribution. Hyperpolarization has been demonstrated via a number of techniques presented on the screen. ZSM5 is an aluminosilicate zeolite belonging to the pentasyl family of zeolites. Using NMR and isotherm modeling, it was shown that silver exchange ZSM5 or argentum ZSM5 offers better capabilities for adsorbing xenon because the number of adsorption sites increase, as is shown on the lower left picture. Argentum ZSM5 has been tested with Xenon 129 NMR and showed chemical shifts with negative values, which is very rare and indicates strong adsorption sites of xenon with argentum. Here we recommend that the experiments should be expanded to other materials, which were shown to be useful for xenon separation, such as argentum ETS10 and MOFs specifically designed for xenon separation. In the upper right picture, one can see that on natrium ETS10, xenon adsorption at 25 degrees Celsius is nearly linear with pressure. However, silver exchange dramatically changes adsorption behavior, generating a steep isotherm, which reaches 6% weight loading by 0.5 torr at 25 degrees Celsius. So our point here is to drag the audience's attention to silver-modified xenon separating materials, as they have unique properties which can be very useful in advancing xenon separation in future. We propose doing more experiments. In conclusion, we'd like to say that we have analyzed the latest achievements in xenon 129 spectroscopy. In particular, modern techniques for xenon hyperpolarization, which enhances xenon polarization, thus increasing sensitivity of NMR experiments by 4 to 8 orders. We have collected data considering recent NMR spectroscopy experiments conducted on zeolites. Also, argentum modified ZSM5 and ETS10 were considered and their properties were discussed.
And the possibilities for future research is to conduct experiments on other argentum-containing xenon separating materials and to try to correlate chemical shifts with isosteric heat of adsorption, and to identify types of procedures for Xenon 129 NMR for adsorptives argentum ETS10, argentum ZSM5, as they contain argentum and thus are of interest. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Vladimir. Thank you, Essa, for this. Wow, such a great start. And I suggest we kick off our expert discussion. And may I invite Gustavo Hikingurade to first provide his feedback on the work of our students. Gustavo, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel and to look for these important and challenging projects that are represented here. I was very happy to see the interdisciplinary combination of NMR techniques with nuclear techniques in order to improve the sensitivity of the xenon measure. I see the silver doping of the zeolites looks as a very promising technique in order to increase the stability and the sorption efficiency of the zeolite. So if I would like to ask a couple of questions to the team, to the students. The first one is, have you done any assessment on how these silver doped zeolites are increasing the final sensitivity of the measurements of xenon isotopes, especially xenon 133 and 131M? And my second question is, how do you assess the concentration or the doping of the silver into the zeolite, how they can be assessed to find the optimal concentration of them.
Okay, thank you for your question, but a little bit of technical error there were, and could you please repeat these isotopes you mentioned in the end of the first question?
To repeat the isotopes?
Yeah, you called, you named some isotopes and numbers were corrupted in a
Yes.
translation.
Yes, in an on-site inspection, you are looking for Xenon 133, and 131M, which are fingertips of a nuclear explosion. And my question is whether you already tested this type of zeolite.
Yeah, thank you.
Capability.
I remember that first question you actually asked, and let me please answer it. So the question was about how we assessed that argentum actually makes is more sufficient in reactions with absorption of xenon on zeolites. And we actually learned quite much literature on the topic, and we found out that isosteric heat of absorption it shows when using argentum in zeolite compositions, it shows negative values, which indicate that the reaction becomes exothermic. That much energy is released from the reaction, and the more negative, the stronger the interaction. So in other words, the more negative, the better the material works to separate a gas. So, but you mentioned two isotopes on which were found not so often in this particular literature on the topic of xenon absorption on zeolites. Mostly the literature we have read is it explains the xenon 129 isotope, but we assume that as it already exists in a Spalex or sauna systems, which use similar techniques. So this is not a big deal. Thank you.
Let me please add to the answer. So the point of what we are telling here is that argentum modified xenon separators are absorbing xenon much better, and this also can be expanded to other noble gases. So in our opinion, there is not much problem that we use specifically xenon 129. The next part, sort of like the next step, is to expand these survey on other noble gases such as argon, for example. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gustavo, for your question, and thank you, Vladlen and Ivan, for such an elaborate answer. Now I would like to give the floor for feedback to Gleb Zasimov. Gleb Sergeyevich, please. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank to PTS, to site director for the invitation to take part in this event. I I note that excellent organization and very interesting and, my opinion, important area of activity. So, what about presentation and topic of this presentation, Xenon separation improvement study? I think it's really very interesting theme, and so I found your research is very useful. I hope that you continue your research, and your research can be very helpful to little more understanding and maybe improving the Xenon separation process. I think you have successfully solved your task for this time. I saw that you reviewed and summarized the recent NMR techniques for noble gases, and also you have analyzed latest achievements in the 129 Xenon separation. And of course, I think you have correctly identified to direction for further research. I wish you the best in your research, and do not stop there, and you will be fine. Thank you. I wish you good luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lev Sergeyevich. And I see a virtual hand raised by Malcolm. So Malcolm, please, the floor is yours to comment.
Thank you very much, Isa. Good evening, everyone, or good morning. Let me first start by thanking very much MEFI, the Russian Federation, and the CTBTO for bringing this initiative together. Encouraging the engagement of strong technical experts who are a good deal younger than me is a very important part of our work, and it's great to see this happening. And it's good to see how technical developments can, improve the way in which OSI could work. And what I'm no expert on radio xenon measurements, but I can say that from my experience in OSI over many years, we often think that the final point of an inspection should be drilling for radioactive samples from the underground. And if you can get to that, that's great. But the reality so often will be that the inspectors, the best result they will get will be the measurements of radio xenon from soil gas samples. And having the most capable systems that we can for that is really important. So I wanted to thank you for that work, encourage you to continue, and say that this is really at the center of making OSI ultimately effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Malcolm. And I just wanted to make a quick disclaimer. If anyone has another question or comment, please feel free to raise your hand virtually. I can see Massimo also raising his hand. Massimo, please.
Thank you, Asia. Let me join my colleagues in thanking the organizers and all the actors of this fantastic event. I think it's really an excellent initiative. Going to the presentation, I don't want to go into any detail of this, any technical detail of this particular presentation, but what I particularly appreciated is the multidisciplinary attitude that the working group showed when approaching this important technical problem. So I think this is an attitude that should be used, should be had by scientists, by inspectors, by all those who approach these complex problems in order to be actually a winner in this difficult field. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Massimo. So I think we can I don't see any other hands raised, so I think we can switch to presentation of the working group number 2 that worked on a case study on approaches to preserve integrity and confidentiality of inspection data. Participants of the group are Vadim Bazel, Andrei Voronin, and Diana Novikova. And this case, the preparation of this case was a true team effort by On-Site Inspection Division, as the developers of the case are Julius Kozma, Operation Officer, Aled Rollins, a Remote Sensing Officer, and Alexander Shebelnik, Data Flow Management Officer, all my colleagues at the On-Site Inspection Division of the CTBTO. So I gladly give the floor to Vadim, Andrei, and Diana, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Guys, you have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Sorry for the technical issue. Just a second.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, now it's perfect.
Great. So first of all, let's have a brief introduction to encryption and what direction it's presented in. Today, there are 3 main encryption paradigms in modern cryptography: symmetric, asymmetric, and hybrid encryption. So let's move on to the first one. Okay, symmetric encryption. The essence of symmetric encryption is that all participants in a private communication channel have a key with which you can both encrypt and decrypt data. The huge advantages of the method are the speed of encryption and protection from external intrusions. However, privacy is compromised in the event of unauthorized access to encryption device. So on this slide, you can see the most famous symmetric encryption methods. Let's move on to the second. It's asymmetric encryption. According to this method, there are 2 types of keys in closed system, private and public. This encryption method is computationally intensive and slower than symmetric encryption, but it's so secure that often the large public key can be publicly available. Using a public key, data can only be encrypted, but when it's necessary to decrypt data, a small private key is used. The most famous asymmetric encryption methods are also mentioned on the slide. Vadim, please.
Yes. Moving on to the last encryption paradigm is hybrid encryption. As the name suggests, this encryption method involves the use of features of 2 main methods, symmetric and asymmetric encryption. The general concept is to encrypt messages using a symmetric method, which takes advantage of the speed of such encryption, while the symmetric encryption key is encrypted asymmetrically. This operation will not be resource intensive, since the symmetric encryption key is not a long sequence of data. Let's talk also about digital signature. A digital signature allows you to confirm the authorship of an electronic document, whether it is a real person or, for example, an account in a cryptocurrency system. The signature is linked to both the author or the document itself using cryptographic methods and cannot be tampered with by simple copying. The currently widely used electronic signature technology is based on asymmetric public key encryption and stands on the following principle. First one being that it is possible to generate a pair of very large numbers, public key and private key, in a way that, knowing the public key, the private key cannot be calculated in a reasonable amount of time. The key generation mechanism is strictly defined and well known. In this case, each public key corresponds to a specific private key. The second one, strong encryption methods are available to encrypt a message with a private key so that only the public key can decrypt it. And the last one being that if an electronic document can be decrypted using a public key, then you can be sure that it was encrypted using a unique private key. If the document is decrypted using Ivan Ivanov's public key, then this confirms its authorship. Only Ivanov could encrypt this document, since he's the only owner of the private key. However, It could be inconvenient to encrypt the entire document, thus only its hash is encrypted. Hash is a small amount of data rigidly tied to the document using mathematical transformations that identifies it. An encrypted hash is an electronic signature. Moving on, Andrei.
Thank you. Now let's move on to a more practical part. Let's imagine a situation and consider which of the methods we have described perform better than the others. Imagine a situation where the inspection leaves for a point A, and if it's possible, the team should take server hardware with them, which will store terabytes of data and perform basic calculation, including cryptographic ones. And if it's not possible, then they should use only symmetric encryption method. So the server is at the site of alleged explosion. In order to minimize the possibilities of target attacks, we suggest using a hybrid encryption method. As we said earlier, this method is almost as fast as symmetric encryption and as secure as asymmetric. And is that the server stores a symmetric encryption key with which it encrypts and decrypts all data. The server also has a public asymmetric encryption key to encrypt the symmetric key, while the private key is available in two copies, one for the country receiving the inspection and the other on the server in the working area. Inside the working area, data only passes through symmetric encryption. We also propose to use digital signature technology to confirm that the data has not been uploaded by some third party. To confirm that the data has not been changed since the last review, we suggest using blockchain technology with Merkle tree. The blockchain technology allows us to resolve following issues: potential mistrust between inspection team and the country receiving inspection. Also, disputes that can occur whether reviewed data from field has been altered or not, and help us to verify data's integrity. So what we suggest is that every day before uploading the new data to receiving area, it is checked that the hash sum matches yesterday's hash sum. After uploading new data, the hash sum is updated, and then the next day, the comparison will be using this new sum. If a mismatch is found, then going from root to leaf, you can find out which file was changed. If this file does not have a verified digital signature, then there was interference from a third party. But if there is a digital signature, then the changes were made by a team member. Actually, that's all. We also would like to make some few conclusions. We think that based on the result of our work, the current state of cryptography was studied and the main direction of the field of encryption were identified. A comparison between different directions in the field of encryption was made, and the most promising direction were highlighted, and we think it's hybrid encryption. We also believe that the hybrid encryption method is the most promising one for CTBTO because it allows obtaining the speed of the symmetric method and the security of asymmetric one. Also, this method is widespread and well studied, so we can surely say it's high crypto resistance. In addition to hybrid encryption, we believe it is preferable to use digital signature technology and blockchain-like technology of Merkle tree. Now that's all. Thank you for your attention. Would like to ask some questions to answer your question if you.
Thank you so much, Vadim, Andrei, and Diana for your presentation. Let's go straight to the feedback. Well, I suggest we start with Malcolm. Malcolm, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Isa, and look, thank you very much to our students for an excellent piece of work. I think this is a very nice illustration of how technology has moved forward over the last 25 years since the treaty was negotiated. The concepts of encryption existed then, but the implementation of them really didn't exist in anything like these very useful forms that have been described. So I think we can learn a lot from this kind of work to refine the way in which our data flow works in on-site inspections. So I think it's a great review of the options, and I think I would agree that the hybrid approach to encryption certainly seems the most efficient one. I can't claim to be an expert on this, but certainly I've played enough with computers and setting up minor, simple encryption things that I can see the advantages in the approach that's been proposed. You did talk a little bit about authentication, and in my view, that's really important. Just recalling that the three key words here in this are encryption, authentication, and availability. And having a system which combines all of those capabilities is a really useful one. And I think this is all done at the computer level, at the software level these days, but perhaps you can, the students can clarify that for me. I know that when we discussed these issues in the OSI operational manual, maybe 10 years ago, people talked about having very specialized modules to do encryption or to do something else. But I think this is all now done basically at the PC level. So I'd welcome your clarification on that. So that's very good. And now coming to blockchain, yes, blockchain is of course the new great thing, and I think this is an excellent thought, and will be great to see how this could be implemented. As you mentioned, this concept of when data is after it's taken through the receiving area process and before being uploaded to the working area, basically adding it to the blockchain is a very useful thing. We, in our work years ago, introduced this concept of a joint storage, which was like a locked safe where you would put all the shared data. I think blockchain could save us a good bit of work there. So I think this is very useful. So I think the proposals are clear. The challenge will be in the implementation. And so I'd be just interested in your comments on this is basically a software issue to be resolved, or is there a bit more to it? Thanks very much.
Thank you. Vadim, Andre, Diana, do you have anything to comment on Malcolm's feedback?
Thank you for your question. We will, well, our research in an early stage, and we would like to continue researching this question as well.
Okay, thank you. Now over to Gustavo to provide his feedback on the research. Gustavo, please.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a real pleasure to see the review that you have given to us now. I'm very pleased that you touched the two main information security issues that we may have in an on-site inspection, which are the authenticity of the data and the confidentiality issue. By dealing with both the encryption and authentication, I think it's a very prospective direction how to deal with the entire information security during an OSI. I fully agree with Malcolm's comments, and even though I don't have that historic perspective that he mentioned here, but I will encourage you also not to look backward 25 years, also look forward in the next 25 years, what you will imagine could be the challenges from the point of information security during an OSI. And I think from brilliant students like you are, I think we can learn and see different type of approaches, how to cope with this type of challenges. Again, I really like your presentation, and I encourage you to go forward in that direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gustavo. Okay, now over to Gleb Sergeyevich, please.
Thank you, Asa, for giving me the floor. Thank you, students, for presentation. It's a very good topic, especially taking into account that some aspects of this issue are still being negotiated at the working group B session related to development of the OSI operation manual. Maybe Gustavo, correct me if I remember correctly, during the implementation of project 1.2, maybe 2.2 of action plan 2016-2019, we considered this issue, and what I would like to say, this is a difficult task and quite sensitive for the state signatures. I think in your presentation, you have reviewed and summarized recent development in the field of encryption, compared pluses and minuses of different methods very well. In your presentation, you touched blockchain technology, and as I understand, you have preliminary estimated of its benefits, and I hope it could be useful for continued discussion on this issue. Maybe in your future research, it is necessary to consider a little bit more deeper about how the blockchain technology could be implemented practically in the context of OSI, but now I think the presentation was successful, and thank you very much. I wish you good luck for your future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very pleasant commentary. Thank you.
Thank you, Gleb Sergeyevich. Okay, I think now we can switch to working group number 3, that focused their research on engineering solutions for the installation and operation of airborne optical sensors. The participants of this group are Anton Budanitsky, Alexandra Serova, and Islam Sazaev. And the case, so this particular case was developed by Aled Rollins, who is a remote sensing officer here at the OSI division of the CTBTO. So Anton, Alexandra, Islam, the floor is all yours. Take it away.
I'd like to greet everyone one more time. I hope you can hear us.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. We are students of MEFI. My name is Alexandra Serova, and let me present to you my colleagues, Anton Budanitsky and Islam Sazaev. And today we present the results of our case study that was dedicated to engineering solutions for the installation and operation of airborne optical sensors. It is known that on-site inspections are provided to identify whether a country conducted a nuclear test on its territory, thereby violating Article 1 of the CTBT. In order to verify the event, the CTBT protocol establishes the use of portable and easily deployable equipment, including a multispectral observation device by aircraft. Helicopters are expected to conduct all flights of the inspection site. Multispectral surveillance can be performed by means of a range of optical sensors and additional equipment, which is installed inside or outside the cabin. For this purpose, options for the location of key devices, as well as engineering solutions for securing it, need to be investigated, as well as approaches for powering the suite of instruments on board examined.
In order to understand the conditions under which inspections are carried, the mechanism for arranging and carrying out the procedure on-site was reviewed. According to the CTBTO, inspections are carried out in 4 phases, as you can see on the slide. During on-site inspections, multispectral inspection is carried out. The inspector team shall have full access to the inspection area. The inspected state party might restrict access to some areas under the managed across mechanism. The inspection team shall be allowed one overflight to have a general view of the inspection area, and further overflights shall be subject to the permission of the inspected state party. The overflight team shall consist of a pilot and 4 operators. In the course of the case review, the CTBTO technical report was examined. According to it, the MSIR system consists of 6 sensors and cameras. The wiring between the sensors and the computer equipment was also examined. The MSIR system consists of 3 infrared sensors of different wavelength and frequency, a LiDAR sensor, as well as 2 VIS cameras. In addition, the equipment includes 2 computers, 2 submodules, and 2 monitor configurations. The actual timing of the overflight is determined by mission priorities. If the detection of possible thermal anomalies is the main objective of the mission, the commit must calculate the time accordingly. The flight path of the mission is to be arranged in such a manner as to cover the entire surface area. For this purpose, it is proposed to move in a parallel lines towards and away from the Sun. The application of this concept is challenging for the large areas, as the total flight time increases and the angle of incidence of the Sun rays changes rapidly during the course of the flight. In this case, the assumed flight path must change during the acquisition period. For onboard sensors, an image with high space resolution is required, which means that the flight altitude must be decreased to 250 meters.
Although both fixed-wing aircraft and a helicopter can be used for one-site inspections, a small helicopter was considered appropriate for testing purposes. Main consideration when installing multispectral infrared equipment on a rotary wing aircraft were as follows. Unless the helicopter has an internal photogrammetric hatch, the equipment must be installed in an external compartment in the main body of the aircraft. Sensor may experience increased vibration aboard the helicopter compared to a relatively stable fixed-wing aircraft. For the purposes of evaluating multispectral infrared imagery capabilities in the context of one-site inspection, the LV-2 helicopter was used for the field test on the system. A custom pod was designed and mounted on brackets aboard the helicopter. This configuration provided an unobstructed field of view for the sensors and gave technicians easier access to change setting and perform system checks when necessary. The main focus was on the potential vibration of the aircraft, which could negatively affect the images. To minimize the effect of vibration, the sensors were mounted on shock absorbers. All control system, monitors, and data storage devices were located in the main cabin of the helicopter. Additional sensors were placed outside the main cabin as far as possible from shading by the rotors.
In summary, we concluded that the onboard system that was used during the field test is not optimal for on-site inspections due to the complexity of the installation and its size, but however, a more compact and easy to install MSIR system would be ideal, considering the amount of data and the complexity of handling and processing hyperspectral sensors. With push broom sensors, an optimal MSIR system would include a combination of wideband imaging cameras and narrowband sensors. Wideband sensors will generate data products in an efficient and timely manner, while narrowband sensors will allow for more targeting, especially for unexposed surfaces. In addition to imaging cameras used in field trials, the use of a color infrared camera is recommended in order to provide near-infrared as well as visible images. This would enable the rapid production of data products for anthropogenic characterization. That's all for now. Thank you for your attention. We are open for your questions.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, Anton, Islam. So now over to experts' feedback. I suggest we start with Massimo. Massimo, please.
Thank you, Asia. Thanks a lot to the group. I admit that this is definitely not an easy task to quickly adapt a complex suite of sensors to an aerial vehicle. Especially consider the restrictions that normally govern the world of aeronautical authorities, and also with the objective to maintain the airworthiness of the vehicle, complying also with the aeronautical standards. So I think the group has done a very, very, very good job, and I can only go into some critical aspects because we all know that multispectral imaging is an essential component of on-site inspection to remotely look at the area or certain parts of the area according to the so-called search logic that governs the conduct of inspection. Now, these critical aspects of an installation, we can only, just for the sake of brevity, consider, for example, the position of sensors when during an installation. And I can refer, for example, to the GPS antennas to define what the exact position of the aircraft is. And this might be a critical aspect because depending on what kind of aerial vehicle, for example, helicopter, you are using, the blades of the main rotor, if they are not fiberglass, they are metallic, they might shadow the reception of satellites. So the search of the best position on board the helicopter is a key factor. Okay, and also the decision on where and how to place the cameras, the MSIR sensors are important because they must have an unobstructed view downward. And in some cases, some helicopters might have the position of the skid that might be a problem. So I wonder whether the group has faced these various possibilities, because when we know exactly that when we go to the field during an on-site inspection, we are not fully aware of what could be the aerial vehicle that will be available for the overflights. Another issue is the famous issue of internal versus external mounting. I think the group has elaborated very satisfactorily this concept in one or two slides. They have pointed out that the internal mounting implies the use of a pod, whereas the external, the use of a pod, and the internal requires the presence of a bottom hatch. Okay. Now, they also have written that the external mounting has no hyperspectral. I would have liked to have little more elaboration on that, especially for those who are not acquainted and not familiar with this technology. And finally, let me finish with my comment with a general consideration from the scientific point of view. I understand that the objective of the presentation was mainly related to the engineering solution. However, the working group B may have noticed during their study that different sensors, different cameras have different fields of view, and they have also written in one slide. Now, a good exercise could be, for example, for the future, of course, to ponder, to elaborate on what are the elements that to consider when planning the flight altitude of the aircraft, okay, to get the best compromise between image resolution, line separation and taking into account the flight time limitation foreseen by the treaty, and of course also imposed by the ISP. So this is a multi-parameter problem that, of course, has a solution that has to be considered as the best compromise. So for the future, maybe they could think about that, and this is a more scientific approach. But congratulations again, because they did a good job. Thank you.
Guys, do you want to comment on Massimo's feedback?
Thank you very much. I hope in other further development and studies on this case, we will definitely implement the issues that you've mentioned.
Thank you. Over to Gleb Sergeyevich, please. Sergeyevich, you are muted. We can't hear you, unfortunately.
So, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Could you just
please? Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, I'm not expert in this method, and I will be very brief. I have not any critical aspect like Massimo has, because, like I said, not more deeper including this method. But what I would like to say, the MCR method is one of the OSI method, is important method, and as I understand, you have a good understanding of its purpose and features. And in your presentation, you propose some engineering solution. It's good work. I think you will continue its direction, and of course, thank you for your presentation. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Gleb Sergeyevich. Thank you, Alexandra, Anton, and Islam. So I suggest we move to the next part of our agenda, because actually there was another case that proved to be slightly more challenging than others. And this was the case focusing on to what extent could rule-based fuzzy logic support the progress of an OSI. And regarding this case, we decided that we would approach it slightly differently. So I would like to invite Alex Rowlands, who is the author of this case, to take the floor and to elaborate, to briefly present the case, and to present his suggestions on what could have been the deliverables. And then if any of the experts or the students would like to comment, this would be sort of a free floor discussion, because this case is very interesting. And I suggest that it will have the story even post our event. Alex, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Asya. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Yeah, so the idea behind this case, it's been in my mind for some time. And whilst ITF is very well established, I thought perhaps we could have just some fresh thinking about the issue of not changing ITF. Don't worry about that. It's how we generate search zones and how those search zones are delineated. That was the basic idea behind this. And prior to working for the PTS, I did a lot of image segmentation and rule-based classification based on fuzzy logic. And I thought, well, why not get people to look at this particular issue? So if I just step back for a second and think of an inspection, and we apply ITF, inspection team functionality, which is basically all about reducing the search area into smaller areas, obviously, smaller search zones, where we can focus our more intrusive techniques. Now, on the screen there, you'll see a map of Jordan that was used during IFE 14, and you can see in green and red rectangles, they were known as polygons then, now they're called search zones, that the inspectors used to apply search logic. And as you can see, they're all regular. They're either rectangles or squares. So they're all regular for some reason. So I was thinking, well, can we do something different? Can we apply a different approach here to generate these search shows? Okay, so let me go on to the next slide. I can go to that one. Okay, so basically we're focusing here on ITF step 1, which is all about reviewing the information available to the leadership. It's also information available to the team in Vienna during the launch phase as well, and how they use that information to generate search zones. So we're focusing now on ITF step 1. So, like I said, excuse me, ITF actually starts in the launch phase and then progresses to the field. So whatever solution, we should apply it both in headquarters during the launch phase and also during deployment. Now, during the last OSI action plan 2.5 focused on the data which the team may wish to have during the launch phase in Vienna. And there was a very long list of vector and raster data, all geospatially referenced data, which would be available to the team in Vienna planning the initial inspection plan for deployment to the field. And there's a list of them there. Obviously, you've got the IDC products, but also you've got a lot of imagery data. You've got a lot of elevation data, as well as things like mining, quarrying locations, and so on and so on. And of course, when we go to the field, those are supplemented by our paragraph 69, the data from our paragraph 69 techniques. So again, these can be thrown in to the mix, if you like, and we can then think about how we use these data to generate search zones. So ITF aims to reduce bias. That's very important. It's one of the core principles of ITF, reducing the bias. But search zones are still created by the user clicking on 4 points to create a polygon. So it's still a subjective process. So the aim of this case study was to explore if any automated method could be developed to generate and delineate those search zones. They don't have to be a regular shape. They can be irregular, whatever. So, like I said, years ago, I used to work on object-based classification. And one of the key ideas there is that you throw in vector and raster data and you generate segments. And a segment is generally thought of as a homogeneous parcel. So for example, we could throw in the road network for an area. We could throw in the satellite imagery, and then we could come up with some model to split up the area into these homogeneous segments, which could then translate into search zones eventually. And one of the ideas that could be applied then is this whole thing about artificial intelligence. Could we apply AI to support the process of creating search zones during an inspection? And funnily enough, during this particular SNT, there have been a couple of presentations already about similar topics. We had on Monday a keynote speaker talking about artificial intelligence. And yesterday we had 2 presentations given by two presenters on segmentation, image-based segmentation, but focusing on a very small area. So, but I'm thinking now of a very large area. I'm thinking 1,000 square kilometers as opposed to one small area. And we also had yesterday a presentation about change detection, and I think of this being very, very similar in a way. So I think that by applying artificial intelligence, rule-based classification based on segments, there could be a way forward to generate these search zones in an automatic kind of a way, and taking away that additional bias one has by just clicking on a map and identifying the search zone. So that's the general case. Yeah, over to you, panel.
Thank you, Alex. So I think now we can engage into the discussion of this particular case. So I suggest we start with Massimo. Massimo, please.
Oh, Aled, thank you very much. You know, these arguments trigger my my fantasy and my willingness to go ahead and explore these new fields in the name of science, technology, you know, and improving the verification system and so on. So thank you very much for this idea. You know, we all, I think, are working a little bit in our, each one in his own particular field in deep learning, machine learning, artificial intelligence in general. And I appreciate a lot this idea. And if you want my comment, of course, I endorse pushing in this direction. The only thing that I've been learning in the last few years is that fuzzy logic very easily, I mean, the path between fuzzy logic and probability theory is short. So it's easy to go from one to the other. However, they are different things. And sometimes people tend to confuse the two. So I say in general that I'm very happy to see that there is this idea. I, of course, can go ahead with you and others, all those who want to explore this idea, this approach, keeping into account that let's not forget that there are some constraints to go from one discipline to another. Okay, it's just to say in a few very few words. It's a complex issue, and I don't want to take the floor for so long. But again, thank you very much, Aled.
Thank you, Massimo. I can see Malcolm's virtual hand raised. Malcolm, please.
Very much, Asya. Thanks, Alan. This is a really interesting topic, and like Massimo, it'd be a really fun one to explore more. Just a couple of observations. From what I understand, you know, AI analysis of imagery is a really useful way of trying to identify patterns that, you know, human eye and brain might miss. And so I think this is a really useful thing to consider in and of itself. I'm not totally convinced by the argument that AI is unbiased. It's the product that's training, and there's a famous conundrum with AI that you don't really know why it's decided to call something what it is. So when the AI, simple AI that assesses the images out of my security camera here around the house says that this kangaroo is a cat, then you know, there's obviously a bias there because it's been trained to look for cats and not for kangaroos. So that's something to consider. So, but I really do think it's a super useful tool to consider. But at the end of the day, and sorry to come back to these other metaphors, it's a bit like self-driving cars as well. You know, it's great to have that capability and potential there, but at the end of the day, for a long time yet, you need someone sitting there driving and watching the thing to make sure that it's not going off and crashing into the wrong thing. But I love the tools. Good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you, Malcolm. Alan, because as we're running a little bit short on time, I suggest we collect all the questions and comments and then give you the floor to elaborate on them. We also have a question coming from MEFI students, and I see their hand. So yeah, please go ahead, but also please introduce yourself once you ask your question.
Okay, thank you. Ivan Drozdov, MEFI. Thank you very much for this presentation, Aled. Really appreciate this very interesting topic. And my question will be just very, I think, very technical, maybe, and maybe not so deep thinking. But you mentioned that the user, I'm not familiar with this specific software, but you mentioned that user has to click to make 4 points, creating a polygon. And my question is, why do you use rectangles and not triangles? As for me, it's easier to have complex polygonal figure cover the map when using 3 points primitives. Thank you.
Mute me. Alan, thank you, but I suggest we collect a feedback from Gleb Sergeyevich, and then we take over to you, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Asa. Thank you, Alet, for excellent presentation. I have a question, but I would like to support you for your work. And of course, it's very interesting and very useful for OSI. From my side, I would like to say in our institute, we're also working on the optimization of search logic during OSI. We try to create an expert system, and we use a machine learning for solving this problem. I know this is a difficult task, and I wish you good luck for your work. Thank you.
Malcolm, is your hand raised, or it was from your previous comment?
From the last comment, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Now then, it's over. Yeah, I don't think I see any more virtual hands. So, Aled, please, over to you.
Asa, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but we have another question from Mefi.
Sure, please go ahead.
Thank you. Diana Novikova. I was wondering, what segmentation algorithm are you planning to use? Like maybe threshold algorithm? Have you thought about it?
Okay, shall I respond to? I'll try my best. Okay, so the first thing about the points on the map to create the search on, actually a user can actually still now in our new GMO application, they can create as many points as they want, so they can actually create an irregular object. But again, it's subjective. The question about the algorithm which would be used, I have no idea, to be honest with you. Years ago, I used to use a series of different algorithms, and you'd always play around with a scaling factor, and it was a bit subjective as well. So again, I come back to what Malcolm said, you know, there's still a user having some interaction with the system there when it comes to segmenting the area. This was just this was an idea that came to me whilst we were preparing case studies for this particular event, and I thought it was something worthwhile to think about now, even though probably we're quite a long way away from trying to implement this operationally. But I think it is an interesting topic, and it's something that probably others could support us with to see what the possibilities really are. I'm not too sure if we have the let's say if it's on our immediate horizon to do this kind of work, but it would be very interesting to look into this, and perhaps you know, people can look at this issue in the future.
Okay, Alex, thank you so much. Well, a little comment from my neighbor Franz here was that we can definitely apply for you to be an honorary MEFI student, unless MEFI doesn't object. Yeah, so on this note, well, unless anyone have any, yeah, Alex, please, sure, go ahead.
I would be honored if they were, I would be honored.
Yeah, because technically Aled was a mastermind behind 3 of 4 cases prepared for this particular event. So a particular thank you for that, for your work and for the support of the initiative. Now, as we are over with the case studies, there is a little video that we would want to play for you. So this is a quick video contribution from Vladimir Krychenkov, who served as first OSI division director from 1997 to 2004. And he prepared a short video on focusing on the CTBT at its 25th anniversary. So I suggest we play it now.
In 1996, 25 years ago, the CTBT was opened for signature. In accordance with the treaty, each state party undertakes not to carry out or participate in the carrying out of any nuclear weapon test explosion or any other nuclear explosion. CTBT, as cornerstone of international security, is greatly supported by the world community. The treaty value is very high, and its entry in force should be a priority for the nearest future. I believe that celebrating 25-year anniversary of the CTBT, states should join forces to promote its ratifications, in particular by 8 states of the list of 44, and to establish a global verification regime. My 7-year work experience in the Preparatory Commission Secretariat showed that the CTBT verification measures, in particular the on-site inspection tools of my personal responsibility, are informative and effective. These measures, applicable after the CTBT entry into force only, allow to detect an anomaly event and registration of its signatures to clarify if the event is connected to a clandestine nuclear explosion or to a natural or technogenic happening. In case of conduct of an on-site inspection at the anomaly site, the inspection team activities will be limited by time, area, and equipment, and prescribed by the inspection mandate. Indeed, such restrictions do not compromise acquisition of credible technical data on the event origin, free of any political or other non-valid conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it was an excellent video, and I'd like to thank both MFA Russia and Rosatom for assisting and for being a sort of a bridge between us getting this video and the origin of the video. All right, so we are getting closer to the conclusion of our event. And in order for us to finish, I would like to invite once again Vadim Smirnov, OSI Division Director, to deliver concluding remarks. But before we do just that, I would like to thank all of the participants, and I would like to thank all the moderators and experts and everyone who was involved to this initiative. And now, Vadim Stanislavovich, please, the floor is yours to conclude.
Thank you, Asya, and I could only join your words in thanking our participants and dear colleagues and dear guests. Thank you for your excellent, exciting presentations, and not only presentations, but ideas and questions. Thank you, our distinguished OSI experts, Gustavo, Massimo, Gleb, Malcolm, for finding time in your busy schedules to join us in this side event. Thank you for the youth group, CTBTO youth group, for their support. And thank you for colleagues from the Russian permanent mission here in Vienna and from the Special Monitoring Service of the Ministry of Defense for your support of this initiative. Paraphrasing one well-known proverb, I would say it takes a village to create something big. And it is reassuring to know that now we have that village. But I would like to add also that in order to mobilize the village, we need someone. And we're lucky enough to have Asya with us, who made this possible for all of us, for mobilizing and encouraging. We will support this initiative. She was the initiator, and she was the driving force behind this initiative. I would like to thank my dear OSI team for their active participation and for their support. From the outset of the project, we saw the particular value of it in the idea to engage young professionals with technical background in technical cases which are not simply theoretical, but also have practically oriented and focused on actual tasks we are doing here in OSI division. We also saw a number of advantages that the students could benefit from such kind of event as well. First of all, for them, it's a very good opportunity to see how the international organization with technical mandate is working. And also it's very good experience for them in interacting with moderators, in preparing these presentations and receiving the feedbacks. Today, Mifi, thank you very much. You are the best today. We're very proud. And thank you for your courage and taking this initiative and our proposals. So the question I would like to address before we conclude, what's next? I think there is a lot of potential for this initiative. And there is an interest from our part to continue and to capitalize on it. We will probably take some time to assess the results, but we surely intend to take it further. Please don't stop in your engagement with us. I'm sure maybe in some time, one day, some of you, I address to our young participants from MIFI, you will step up into this building as new staff members of the BTS or member of the delegation working this organization. So thank you all for your participation, and I wish you enjoy the rest final hours of this conference. Thank you, Asya. I suggest to give big applause to Asya and our young participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vadim Stanislavovich, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. And it's really, we are very proud here at the OSI division that it have been months behind preparation of this project that, as Vadim Stanislavovich rightfully pointed out, took an entire village of everyone helping, everyone being on board. And I particularly thank MEFI students, again, joining Vadim Stanislavovich and thanking them for their courage and for their enthusiasm and for their initiative. And please enjoy the rest of the S&T, enjoy the rest of the conference, and have a nice weekend, everyone. And I hope to see you all again very, very soon. Thank you so much. All the best.
Ciao.